In this vlog, I want to talk about how the freelance developers' set of tasks that they have to perform, that they have to bring to the client, is continuously evolving. It's continuously evolving. So for example, back in the early 90s or mid 90s and so forth, the skill sets that a web designer developer had extremely different than today. So back then you just knew basic HTML, the CSS didn't really work, so you hacked out things with tables and transparent GIFs. And that's, by the way, killersites.com, the site that I own and manage now. It was first made famous for this book, Creating Killer Websites. It was like probably the seminal book or one of the most popular books in web design in the 90s, that's for sure. Translated in like whatever, 20 languages, and you get the idea. Yeah, so the way we used to design sites, so in that book, by the way, the author, he was actually one of the first to put out this whole notion that we should use design characteristics. Design, or the look or the visual aspect of the site, was extremely important because back then sites weren't designed to look very pretty. But to do that, because of the technology limitations, you had to hack the hell out of things. And so they used tables to create grid structures on the page, and then they used all these tricks like transparent GIFs and stuff to be able to position things, and it was just a bloody mess. But at least the websites were starting to look at least somewhat aesthetically pleasing relative to what they were before. So a whole new set of skills, were developed, and practices and workflows that were developed for that time because the web browsers were so limited. And to the credit of the author of the book, I forget his first name, David Siegel. And he was saying, and to his credit, we have to do these hacks until we can figure out, until the browser makers actually implement CSS properly and proper HTML and make it consistent. It was just a total mess back then. You don't have to worry about its ancient history. The point is that how web designers and developers operated back then was very different than just 5-6 years later. And then another 5-6 years later, the skill sets changed quite a bit again. And I've spoken about this, how a friend of mine who in the 90s was a top guy for a pretty big content site, and he got out of the game for like 3-4 years. He came back and he was freaked out at how different it was, and how he basically had to learn everything from scratch. It was pretty depressing for him. But fortunately for you guys, those radical changes in terms of the actual code and how you structure things have stabilized quite a bit. As I said, the rate of change, the slope has flattened out, which means it's pretty consistent, which is fantastic. So it pretty much stabilized, I'd say maybe 2.12, 2.13, 2.14, something like that. It's very stable. You should be good. Now, what is changing, though, in terms of freelancers, is what you need to bring to the table in terms of a range of skills and services. It's not enough to be able just to build a good-looking website or a web app. These days, you have to bring in some credible knowledge in terms of the lifespan of the project and in terms of getting the word out. So you should learn a little bit about social media marketing, a bit about, of course, you got to have SEO-friendly sites, understand traditional content marketing and how that fits together, in a coherent package. And it should be built into some of the systems in terms of your app that you build, your web app. I'm thinking more or less web app, generally speaking, but it applies to mobile to a certain extent. The point is that if you want to be more competitive as a developer, you have to bring a little bit more to the table than just the technical or the coding skills or the app building skills or the website building skills. You have to bring in the whole promotional and marketing end of things. Not to say you have to become a social media marketer and you have to be a content marketer, but at least you should know the basics of this kind of stuff so you can bring this to the fore with your clients. Help them to understand what they have to do after you build their website, after you build their web app. How do they have to position it in terms of the broader web, in terms of social media sites, in terms of content marketing, and so forth. And there's stuff to do there because some of the things or tools that you build into the site or a web app will impact their marketing reach or social media reach or their content marketing reach. It's all tied in a little bit. Now, I'm not saying again you're going to become a full-blown social media marketer, but you should position yourself to be able to provide a proper structure in the deliverable, in the product that you deliver to them, so that it kind of works with these type of strategies going forward. Because at the end of the day, if you're building an app, you're building a site, ultimately people are building these sites because they want people to come to the site, right? So this is where this whole thing comes in. So there's a bit of a shift, a bit of an evolution, although it's been there for a while, but I just wanted to make this more obvious to you guys. Again, this applies to people who are going to get into the freelance game. At the end of the day, adding this feature, adding this, this service, there we go, adding this element to what you deliver to a prospective client will give you a much better chance of actually landing a job, right? Because you say, I'm also prepared, setting you up for this, we're structuring up for this, we'll sort of get you positioned for, you know, the social media and the content marketing, and you know, help you a little bit there. But you know, you're not providing those services, although you could. But by being able to bring that turnkey package, because a lot of clients will say, okay, you're building my site, you're building my web app, how do I get people to it? You're gonna get that question. What do I do? And that's where that comes in. And that's pretty much it. All right, I'm off. I want to go get my coffee and my bagel and do my little morning drive over the mountain. Ciao.